Hey there, movie lovers. This is Josh the Merc Rainer here, and I am teaming up with my other site, DC Comics News, to bring you a special treat. I just got off of a Zoom call with the amazing Roberto Patino, the showrunner for the upcoming series DMZ. It's a fantastic show. I got the opportunity to take an early look at it. It comes out on the 17th, just a couple days away on HBO Max. It is incredible. It is set in the world where a second civil war has taken place, and there is a DMZ, a demilitarized zone between these two warring countries of the United States and the Free States of America. And it tells the story of the people within that DMZ. And it's incredible. It is, I think, a very important series. And I hope that you guys watch it and enjoy it. It's amazing. And like I said, I got the chance to talk with the showrunner about the show for a little bit. So please check out my interview with Roberto Patino. And be sure to check me out on Twitter, both at movieblogmerc, MERC, and at DC Comics News. And enjoy. There it is. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
All right. I'm just going to start diving into the questions here. This version of the DMZ story follows Rosario Dawson's character Z, as opposed to the comics that primarily followed the character of Maddie Roth. What was the thought process behind changing the focus to this very different version of Z rather than Maddie?
Yeah, a number of things. Z is actually predicated, Alma, my Z, is predicated in spirit on Z. She was a Latina medic before the war. Where the story diverges is where, in the comic, she plants a flag and stays. And this one, Z is a mother with a deep history to the island, to Manhattan, and she gets separated from her son in the evacuation of Manhattan. To touch on your question about Maddie, the comic, when it came out in 2005, blew me away. It got me hooked, like it did so many people, because of the fundamental context, right? The idea of second American Civil War. It was so terrifying, but it was so other, right? It was so out there. Yeah. And, on a pretty cynical sort of, I can't look away level, the whole framework of the comic worked. Maddie being a photojournalist, being dropped in and left behind. You wanted to follow that comic because inherently he is a passive character, right? He's not doing anything to affect his circumstance. He's just taking it in. And as a reader, he's a proxy for the readership, and you just want to see the world with him, right? You want to see what Central Park became. You want to see what happened to the Empire State Building. And so it worked. If you look at it for adapting it for the landscape of TV, it, to me, inherently on a character level, felt too passive of a character. I really wanted someone who wanted a specific want, and who would stop at nothing to get it. That's on a character level. And then there's the contextual level, which, the comic came out in 2005. It was very predicated on a post 9/11 world, and for a comic that is so founded upon its global affairs, right? It dealt with our military interred in the Middle East and all the industrial military conflicts, all those things that are so of the time. To tell the story in 2022, you really needed to do that justice. And the concept of DMZ in 2022 takes on a whole new meaning. Right, it hits much closer to home. Yeah. So I really liberated myself in terms of the creative restraints, and took the spirit of the comic, which I love so much, and built a world around Z, who in the comic was more of a two-dimensional character. And also the idea of plucking a fearless Latina out from the background and plugging her center stage really kind of gelled with an ethos that drives me, which is to elevate and exalt people of color.
Yeah, that's actually was one of my other questions here. It's one of the things that I loved about this show was how incredibly diverse this cast was. I know you're from Colombia, if I'm not mistaken, right? And so I wanted to know, what was it like being able to bring this large amount of representation for people of color into the show?
It was amazing. It was amazing. And it's something that Ava and I, when we first met, immediately clicked with, because it's not really about, seeking to plug people in. It's just, it's more basic than that. It's our world. It's reflecting our world. It's how it is. And it sounds so simple. It sounds so like lofty, but it's rather simple. So that was a very explicit mandate. Also, if you take a 10% cross section of Manhattan, you're going to get people from all over the world of all colors and creeds and walks of life. So why not plug that into the show and do it right? We were very intentional about casting people of color and building out a crew. Similarly, an inclusive crew and an inclusive cast.
So one of the other things that I really enjoyed about the show was that it focused primarily on the people inside the DMZ.
Yes.
And it didn't get bogged down with all the politics of the two outside warring countries. Was this a conscious effort from the beginning, or was this something that kind of formed during the process?
No, it was a conscious effort from the beginning, because that speculating on why we would get to war is just, continuing to play by the rules of division that we play by now. If you ask 10 different people how we might get to civil war, you're going to get 10 different answers. And frankly, I'm not interested in any of them. So it was a very explicit effort to just assume it and start inside it and tell the story of what happens next, which is the story of resolve, the story of hope, the story of people coming together. And that was frankly, that felt generative, that felt fresh and new and emotionally engaging for me. The other thing, with Z, is that the comic is pretty fundamentally male dominated. It's very testosterone heavy. And coming in through her emotional point of view, imbued this sort of harrowing world with a whole new feminine energy and a whole new approach to power. Which was another thing that felt very fresh and good for me.
Yeah, and you mentioned, how this story is very kind of close to home today, with a lot of things that have happened over the last few years. Was there ever a concern about how a show like this could be received? Because you started developing it prior to all the craziness that took place in 2020, but was there ever any concern about how it might wind up being received once it did finally come out?
Of course there was concern, and there still continues to be concern. Russia invaded Ukraine, 2.5 weeks ago, right? Right. It just never stops. But we have really kind of been emboldened by that concern. And instead of shying away from it and wincing, the way I feel about it all is that we need to lean in and tell this story now more than ever. Because the story does not by any means exalt war or division. Frankly, it's about, like you said, the people of the DMZ. The war is the background, right? The soldiers of the war are these ghosts on the periphery that we never see. And it just tells the story of people and communities and how war and how policies, what they can do to a person, to a community. And this really focuses on the resolve of overcoming that. And I think that's a fundamentally human lesson that, is applicable to everywhere. War is an ugly part of our lives. There's been a war every single day since you and I have been alive. Now there's one that is incredibly tragic, that's on covering all of our front pages. My family's country in Colombia, has been in a civil war since 1964, pushing 60 years now. So, we really do not want to delve into politics. And I really wanted to, have Alma be a force that almost neutralizes politics and gets to the true core of nation building. I like to say that this show is about America's founding mother.
Yeah, you guys do a fantastic job of that. Personally, I watched the entire thing yesterday, and it hit me just how important I feel like the show is and will be to anybody who watches. I hope that everybody watches this. What are you hoping most that people take away from watching this?
I don't, I have my hopes and I'll share them. I hope that it can really have, beyond the excitement and the adrenaline and the romance and the drama and all of those kind of like yummy things that we watch TV for. I really hope the ideas baked into the story can cause people to really interrogate who we are and why we are as a people, where we are, and who we want to be and how we might get there in the future. Right. So that's my hope. The truth is that there's a lot in this show. There's a lot of very provocative ideas and it's a big old stew, as Ava would say. And I think people will internalize it in their own ways. And I can't know that, but I'm eager to hear, if anything, I hope this show is a conversation starter and an additive component to the global conversations about war that we all need to be having.
I think you've done an absolutely incredible job with it. I kind of wish there was more, but what I got was just so perfect that I kind of am glad that it didn't get kind of ruined by like over fluffed. And so I have one final question before I let you go. I wanted to ask you about a project that was announced that you're working on, an adaptation of one of my favorite Image comics, Nocterra. Yep. And I wanted to know, was there any updates on that? How's that going? And what was your experience getting into this project?
Oh man, Nocterra is the coolest world. I love world building. I really, I like painting on big old canvases with scope and scale, and Nocterra flips that on its head, positing a world where the sun stopped rising. So, to answer your question, development is going very well. I have a pilot script, Scott Snyder and I have been in close contact. He's the writer of the comic, and Tony Daniel as well. But I've mapped out a multi-season show that fingers crossed, but it's looking great. I know the folks at Netflix are jazzed about it. And we're still plugging away on that one, but I'm doing that one with James Wan's company, Atomic Monster. And he's an incredible visionary in the horror space. It's a different tone of horror. This one I think is more akin to Jurassic Park. There's a sci-fi adventure component to this one, but it's going well. It's going well is the answer. That's
fantastic. I'm really excited to see it when it does finally come out. So thank you so much for joining me today. This was a fantastic little chat, and I hope you have a great day.
All right, my friend.
Take care.